Listening to the Real Estate Financial Coach podcast, financial planning topics for real estate investors. Welcome to the Real Estate Financial Coach podcast. I'm Cynthia Meyer with Real Estate Financial Coach. And today is a really incredible day because I'm talking to Dave Rowan with Rowan Financial. Now, Dave is one of the original co-creators of some of our course curriculum. He's one of the instructors in the course, and he's a real estate financial planner, one of the pioneers in the field. And so I'm super stoked to talk to you today, Dave. What's important to know about you?
Oh gosh, first of all, I'm really excited to be on this show with you too, Cynthia. It's been wonderful to work with you through this whole journey. So I got my start in real estate, gosh, before I was a financial advisor back in 2008, coming out of the meltdown. And there were good deals to be had, and I was able and fortunate to take advantage of some of those. My background, I'm a career changer. I am a chemical engineer by training, but transitioned into financial planning really after helping family and friends with their finances and finding that so rewarding and deciding to do that on my own. And it really is not only a subject matter that I'm interested in, but also as a transition away from corporate life and into my own business.
One of the things I think is so interesting about you, Dave, is that you became a financial planner as a side hustle, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how that led to your career change?
I did. And so it was wild, give it that. But and I did things backwards. A lot of people come into the financial services industry and then go after the certifications. And for me, I didn't know whether I was serious about it, but at the very least wanted to help with my own personal finances and friends and family. So studied for the certified financial planning exam, took it, passed, and then it's like, okay, I have this credential. Can I start to build a business around it? One of the things that was very difficult is I have a day job and the market is only open during business hours. And so how do you run a financial services business with that mix? And it's a really important lesson for me as an entrepreneur, which is, and whether it's this business or investing in real estate, and that is anytime that I get stuck on something, I walk around and talk to people about it. It's like, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here's where I'm stuck. Do you have any coaching for me? And with that method, I eventually had a lunch with my brother-in-law. He said, oh, there's a guy that I know. He'd probably be willing to help you out. He got help coming into the industry. And sure enough, he ran my back office for me, shared some of my fees. And that's really how I was able to get it off the ground as a side hustle. So for those of you who are thinking about a side hustle and come up against what may seem like an impossible barrier to make it happen, particularly if you're still working, I'd encourage you to walk around and you'll be amazed at the help you can get with that.
About how you help real estate investor clients in your financial planning practice.
Yeah, so it's really, I'll tell you, it is such a rich, interesting area as a financial advisor. Just getting started way back when and having the standard categories of investment advice, tax planning, that was somewhat narrow, but working with real estate investors, it's really cool because you're not only working with them on their finances, but also working with them as business people. And so help ranges from how quickly can I acquire properties? How do I hire people on my team? How do I take the most advantage of the tax benefits? How do I form an LLC, make sure I'm protected otherwise from a liability standpoint? But also just some really interesting conversations, even related to the mindsets of being an entrepreneur and how do entrepreneurs think and go about their day? What kinds of help do they go out and find? How do they solve problems? And so it's really very rewarding for me as an advisor, and not only from the standpoint of helping them with their real estate, but also how it overlays with the rest of their finances and other entrepreneurial endeavors.
You have a typical type of real estate investor client that you work with in your firm?
I do. Most of the people that come to me are new. So they are either thinking about real estate or are maybe have one or two properties. They have questions on very basic questions in some instances, which again, none of it, going back to the previous thing about just asking for help. One of the best skill sets that I think any entrepreneur can have is just being willing to be the dummy in the room, right? I don't know this. So help me understand how to go find a property manager. Help me go understand this blizzard of metrics that you hear at a networking function or in a listing or whatever the case may be. What do all these mean? Which ones are important? And how do I look at hundreds of deals and distill it down to the few that work for me? So it's mostly new people, and I find that very rewarding. I have said this to you before, Cynthia. I wish that the 50-year-old me was around to talk to the 20-year-old me. And so I'm trying to talk to the 25, 30, 35-year-old me's out there and help them avoid some of the mistakes that I had and move them faster than I was able to.
So in different conversation, Dave, you and I have talked about what you call the corporate refugee, right? Somebody that dreams of being work optional and perhaps not working anymore, but having more autonomy and control over their work that they do, that the clients that they take or the people that they work with. They may dream of having their own business in terms of launching a business with customers, or they may dream of having a real estate business where, they're landlording full time, or they may even be more hands off with a property manager. What would you say to that? And who's sitting in the cubicle, maybe they're 30 years old. What would you say are the most important things that they should be thinking about if they want to be that person?
The first thing that I think all of us want to hear when we're trying to do something new and potentially scary is you're not alone. Many people have walked this path before, and there are a lot of resources out there to help you succeed. I think that the second thing very early in the process is, in the past, I've had the tendency to put all of my eggs into one basket and gosh, this has to work. This one thing that I'm doing has to work. I've found that talking to people about taking more of an experimental approach early on and trying lots of things to see not only what works financially, but what also works for them emotionally and gets them jumping out of bed in the morning and excited about things. We can think of very profitable things to go do, but if it's not energizing to us, follow through over a long period of time just isn't going to happen. And then the third piece that I would say is, again, look at this holistically in terms of your finances and all of the ways that you can generate income. So whether it's with a side hustle, with real estate, stocks and bonds are part of that mix as well, and other things. And so that's, again, you and I have spoken repeatedly about this, Cynthia. One of the single biggest determinants of being successful from a wealth accumulation standpoint is having multiple sources of income.
Oh, you're so right.
Right.
Multiple sources of income diversification. We think of asset diversification, but you and I think, are agreed that we hope more planners are working with their clients on income diversification.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with that general goal, what are the 100, 500,000 ways you could possibly get there, and then finding your path to make that happen?
So tell us a little bit about your real estate business.
Oh, wow. That's been really fun. So I talked to you about getting started, gosh, it's now 16 years ago. And going back to the experimental, I have a research background, so that's very central to who I am. I have tried a lot of things. Some have been great, some of them have been not so great. But so I have done vacation rentals, I have done fix and flips, I have done subject twos and really been able to help some people get out of some bad situations. I've done long-term rentals to traditional tenants. And currently, a lot of my work is focused on co-living spaces. That branches into two areas. One is in the area of affordable housing. There's just a desperate need for that in a lot of areas. And so being able to give people a place to stay that's very reasonable in terms of the rent, and their utilities are paid for. In some cases, it's furnished. And in exchange, they're willing and able to share the space with other people in terms of kitchens and bathrooms. That works really well. You're sharing with one or two other people. But then the other, I'm working on a triplex right now, and it's targeted at young professionals. And just strategically, you can look in some metropolitan areas and look at the fringe of where there's a lot of development, and the spaces in the neighborhood haven't quite caught up to some of the more appealing places that are out there. And so this is a place that's really very like that. And we're targeting young professionals there. It's a new experiment. We'll see how it goes. With young professionals, they're not that far away from being college students who are living in a co-living environment, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that. I'm sure when we were in school, right? I did. You have the house and then you share it with like 5 or 6 people.
And
Yeah.
if you get the right roommates, it's actually, in my mind, it's preferable to living
Mhm.
by yourself, especially if it's people you can go out with and are interested in talking to after work. So we'll see how that goes, but it's been great to have this breadth of experience and to be able to talk to clients about each of these types of rentals.
So tell us a little bit more about this community-based co-living experiments that you've done. It- Was that on your own, with partners, with community organizations? How has that worked? Because that's a really
Yeah,
interesting niche in real estate.
it is. And so nothing is ever on your own. I was introduced to the concept by a friend back in 2018. He had several rentals that were in this space. One of the organizations that I work with, there's several. Some help recovering substance abusers find places to live. Others find returning citizens. They need a place to live. And we might walk away from this and say, gosh, I can't rent to these people based on the background that they have. Most of the people coming through the system use some bad judgment in the past, and it doesn't change who they are as a person. And giving them this kind of housing to be a stepping stone on their journey of returning back into society is very important to me. I have an existing property manager, two different property managers, and I'm actually interviewing a new gentleman, and he's doing this as a side hustle. So I'm good with that. But by day, he's a social worker. And so,
Ah.
yes. And so he has access to a number of these programs for prospective tenants, but also if they get themselves in trouble again, he has the contacts and the means to get them help if they're just not making it through the process. I've had some really interesting conversations with him. Um, and that we'll see where that goes. But the final thing that I'll say, if you're considering this work, it's like renting to college students. It can be a high drama endeavor, right? There's more turnover. I don't want to sugarcoat this. There's more turnover. There can be more property damage, more tenant disputes. It's part of being in this space, but structured properly, it's both a very rewarding psychologically, but it's also still very profitable. It's a win all the way around. And if you're so inclined, I'd be happy to talk to people about it for sure.
So cool. Talking about your work as an instructor, tell people who are listening a little bit more about your experiences getting involved in the real estate financial coach course and what you hope folks would get out of the course if they're thinking about taking it for the first time.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I don't know how long we have. I'll be brief if I can. So, one of the best things about this course is many of us as advisors are solopreneurs out here on our own. This is such a rich community of other advisors who ask great questions, bring different experiences, and provide a learning environment. Well, that's another nice thing about it. The way that the course is structured with both the content and then as well as the group meetings, it's a very nurturing environment. I've never heard anybody say that's a dumb question. It's
There
fantastic.
are no dumb questions.
Exactly. And so I think it's great for students to have access to people who have walked this road before and ask the questions they might be afraid to ask. The curriculum is comprehensive. I've been through it a few times. I think it's like a good book. Every time you read it, you see something new, right? And can apply it to your practice. I think that there's something in there for everybody in terms of working with people who are just getting started with real estate versus working with people who have a very complex, large portfolio and are working through some pretty interesting tax situations. So I don't know. And it's a pleasure to be with the students and work through things. I think it's great because also it counts toward continuing education for students. All of us are trying to at least chug through the 30 credits of CFP, if not the 60 credits of NAPFA. So that helps as well. And I think that each time we go through the course, it just keeps getting better, as you know, if you want to call us the faculty. But it's
Oh,
not.
I think we should get t-shirts for that. I like that.
Right. And so I couldn't be happier with the experience and working with you and the rest of the team, Cynthia.
You've made a valuable contribution to the course. And those people that are taking the course will see Dave in some of the modules and also in when we do discussion groups and review sessions. We get to benefit from his wisdom as well as the wisdom of the other folks on the team. So, Dave, I'm curious, what do you wish that real estate investors knew about financial planners?
Yeah, such a good question. So I think that one of the stereotypes that we get as advisors is you're going to approach us and we're going to tell you, sell all your properties and put it in the market, right?
Oh, and unfortunately, some people do that, which is not good.
Exactly.
Uh,
And so I think that knowing that there are advisors out there who value what you're trying to do in terms of income diversification for yourself and see that as the huge opportunity that it is the first thing. I think that the second piece is we're not just going to look at your properties and give you some metrics and the tax consequences of these things. This will be a holistic approach of looking at your entire situation, whether you're a W-2 employee or have other businesses, other considerations. And so looking at all of the tax consequences, insurance, making sure you're protected, cash flow, cash reserves, estate planning, all of
yeah, college, how to deal with your restricted stock options, right? All these things that fit together in a big puzzle.
yeah. And then I think that the final piece is we're fellow business owners here. And so as entrepreneurs, there's a unique set of challenges, but also opportunities that we face, knowing that you have not only an advisor, but also a coach and a mentor to help you through those situations.
And what do you wish that more financial planners knew about real estate investors?
Yeah, I think that, and I'm going to repeat an answer from before, which is what an interesting group of people to work with, first of all. These are, I just love the entrepreneurial spirit of most real estate investors.
Me too.
Right? It's so rewarding. So that's the first thing. I think that the second thing is, again, like it's not a black and white situation here. And so you get a lot of real estate investors who eventually will say to you, wow, you know what? I've gotten so busy. I've got some assets for you to go manage. Can you help me with that too? So this does not need to be a black, white, I help them, I don't help them with assets to manage, I think is the second thing.
You're referring to securities assets, you mean like?
I am.
Yeah.
I am. Yeah. So people look for help from that. They might not look initially, but in a lot of cases, they look eventually for that help if you do that within your business. And I guess that the third thing is that, and it's a corollary, is real estate investors are open to all kinds of ways of working with you. I know you, Cynthia, you have a model where there's subscription-based offerings, there's coaching-based offerings. You can do flat fee, you can do hourly. It's really sky's the limit in terms of how you want to work with these folks. And so I would highly recommend it because, again, our job as financial advisors is to help people with their finances. Given a variety of dynamics, real estate investors have been grossly underserved as a population. It's our duty as fiduciaries to help people with all aspects of their finances. Opportunity is huge. So I would just encourage you to strongly think about getting into this space.
One of the things that you and I have talked about many times is the coaching aspect of working with any business owner, including real estate business owners, and how that's different from the traditional model of being a financial planner. What does that mean to you in your practice?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things there. One of the basic concepts is show, don't tell.
Mhm.
Right? And so show people when a situation might be important to them, but don't tell them exactly how to go solve it. I think two is just helping to impart some basic problem solving skills to people. Having an engineering background is really helpful to me personally with that. And so helping people develop those very basic skill sets is really important. Third, and I alluded to this, again, you and I have spoken with this at length, Cynthia, the thoughts that we have associated with our businesses are really critical.
Mhm.
And when we think we can't do something, we're probably right.
But alternatively, if we think we can, if we can see our future selves doing it, we get there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, just talking about, that's why I love my job so much, because I get to do the numbers. I love the
Mhm.
numbers, but I also get to work with people at a pretty deep level. I mean, the client has to invite you in. All of us have, and there's nothing wrong with this. All of us have very transactional clients. Hey, give me the report. What are the numbers? How are we doing? Half-hour meeting, on to the next. Nothing wrong with that. But boy, some of the folks that you can get into and really help them with their business, not only financially, but also how they approach it and get out of bed in the morning is really rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah. Holding up that a kind of believing mirror, if you will, or investing belief capital, I like to say, in when we hear, especially for somebody that is that corporate person that is thinking about, oh, I'd really like to be on my own someday. How can I make this happen? Just affirming that people have walked this path before and that they will be able to make it happen if they do certain things.
I read an interesting book recently, and the author talked about basically what we're all trying to deal with as people, and he called it the three-ring circus, which is first you just have the world and all of the sensory input like bombarding you on a daily basis, all the news articles, people, situations, all coming in,
That's
right?
right. Lack of
That's
parking spaces. Yeah.
all of that. Exactly. And then we have our thoughts associated with that. And then we have the emotions that those thoughts trigger. And we're all just marinating in this all day long. I still wake up mornings in that space as an entrepreneur or working with family things or others. And eventually you can just step away and observe and like, wow, you are really putting yourself through the ringer here.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Gosh, there have been so many. I would say that the best piece is, and you alluded to it earlier, is believe in yourself. One of and a corollary to that that I talk to my kids about is all of us, we all have social media accounts. We see how wonderful everybody else's life is. The mistake that we can sometimes make, I still do it, is we compare our insides to everybody else's outsides. And so people don't have it as together as they appear to. And so realize that what you're seeing is not necessarily the full reality. And knowing that makes it easier for me to believe in myself, even though maybe sometimes I'm not thinking terribly useful thoughts or feeling things that don't feel great. Just continuing to, I can lay in bed in the morning and go through all of this. I come downstairs, have a little breakfast, pour a cup of coffee, open my planner, do the first thing. So believe in yourself.
And this is one of the things that makes you such an amazing coach. So, where can people find you online?
So my website is www.rowanfinancial.com, and you can go there, see what I'm all about, and book an appointment if it's of interest to you. And also for the advisors in the community, I'm in the XYPN directory. You'll see my summary there. And please, if you have any questions whatsoever, if you're a current student or if you're thinking about this, email me directly, dave@rowanfinancial.com.
Dave, thank you so much for this conversation today. And we look forward to hearing more from you on the podcast as a guest and host, and also inside the Real Estate Financial Coach course.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. This has been a pleasure today, and I look forward to continuing to work with you with all the people who come through the course.
All right. Thank you, friends.